intelligence organization of Zimbabwe, that is Shepard Mbeswe, has said 2030 is not a done deal. Cap 3 is not a done deal. The crocodile has just drowned a stray impala, and it is yet to confront the shark in the deep waters. As Mnangagwa signs his betrayal into law, no elections in 2028, rigged elections in 2030 and beyond, zero accountability for ED and Zikanandas for life. Now, the retired DIO Shepard Mbeswe says what has just happened is not a done deal. I'll be reading quite a lot that he wrote on his social media page. Greetings and welcome to your lovely channel, the Hlonipani Global News. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. This is what he had to write. He says, Emmerson Mnangagwa has now signed CAP 3 into law, and Zimbabwe must not be allowed to treat this as an ordinary constitutional development. This is not reform, and neither is it modernization. It is rather a brazen act of political vandalism committed by a sitting president and his inner cycle, who have confused state power with personal entitlement. CAP 3 has always been the legal face of a deeper criminal project. The capture of the state, the mutilation of the 2013 people-driven constitution, and the entrenchment of one man's rule through manipulation, corruption, patronage, and institutional decay. What has happened is not the outcome of national consensus. It is the result of cohesion, elite collusion, and the arrogant belief that the people can be bypassed without consequences. Let us speak plainly. Mnangagwa did not arrive at this point by accident. It is the culmination of a long, deliberate, and ruthless three-pronged strategy. First, the purge of the military and liberation-aligned establishment, exactly what I was speaking about in the previous live broadcast. Mnangagwa entered power through a military assisted transition in 2017, underwritten by figures like Constantino Chiwenga and war veterans. Consensus rooted in the ideals of the liberation struggle. However, from that very moment onwards, it began systematically dismantling that alliance. Senior military figures who were retired, exiled into diplomatic postings, senior military figures were retired, exiled into diplomatic postings, or neutralized. Liberation credentials were no longer a shield. They became a threat to them to be managed. What we are witnessing today is the outcome of that purge, a functionally paralyzed security sector that is incapable of acting as a counterweight to executive overreach. The second was its drive to amass wealth through state capture, unchecked corruption, patronage, building a network of proxy businessmen and beneficiaries whose fortunes would depend on his continued rule. The third was to use that wealth and the presidency itself to dominate parliament, senate, the judiciary, and subdue all state institutions and redesign the constitutional order in his favor. Hence, CAP 3 is now the culmination of that strategy, and this is why the law is so offensive. It is so offensive merely because it extends terms and alters electoral architecture. It is offensive because it exposes the rotten logic behind ED's CAP 3 project. Power for the sake of power, law for the benefit of the powerful, and democracy only so long as it does not interfere with the ambitions of the incumbent. Zimbabweans were not consulted. they were not convinced, they were not respected. Instead, they were subjected to a carefully staged betrayal in which Parliament acted as a compliant corridor for executive will, and sections of the political class behaved as if their duty was not to defend the Constitution but to bargain with it. That is the shame of CAP 3. It was not simply passed, it was enabled. It has been signed, yet, yes, but before it was signed, it was normalized by too many people who should have known better. Parliament has blood on its hands. The president has blood on his hands. So do the collaborators in both the ruling party and the opposition elite within and without Parliament who helped make this constitutional robbery possible. ED and his inner cyclist CAP 3 proponents pretends that this was lawful and legitimate process insults every Zimbabwean who understands that a constitution is supposed rather to mean. A constitution is not a toy to be bent by the powerful. It is the political covenant between the governed and those who govern. So, and it continues to say, when a regime alters the covenant to prolong its own hold on power, it destroys not only a document but the moral basis of authority itself. That is why Mnangagwa's signature matters. It is not merely administrative, it is symbolic of a regime that no longer hides its contempt for accountability. The people were told to wait, to trust the process, and to respect institutions, but the institutions were already captured. The process was already compromised, and the outcome was already prepared. The irony is unbearable. The same Mnangagwa who once promised constitutionalism, claimed he would not cling to office, has now placed his name on a law that deepens precisely the kind of authoritarian entrenchment he pretended to reject. In 2017, he spoke as if power had boundaries. In 2026, he has shown that his boundaries exist only when they protect him from scrutiny. This is not leadership. It is self-preservation dressed up as governance. And let him not hide behind a finger. The real objective is not a stronger Zimbabwe. It is a safer Mnangagwa. A president who fears accountability will always seek to extend the runaway. A political elite addicted to looting will always seek to weaken the institutions that could stop it. CAP 3 serves both goals at once. It serves access to power and protects the architecture of plunder. That is why this moment should anger every serious Zimbabwean, whether in the country or in the diaspora. The issue is not only the law itself, but the political culture it represents, a culture in which constitutions are amended to suit presidents, whilst parliaments are treated as the rubber stamps, and the public is reduced to spectators in its own disposition. The response, therefore, cannot be passive outrage. It must be deliberate and multifaceted. Political resistance must intensify, not fragment. Legal challenges must continue, not retreat. Civic mobilization must expand, not dissipate. Regional and international pressure must be activated, not assumed. Above all, Zimbabweans must reject the normalization of constitutional abuse. This is not merely about Mnangagwa. It is about the precedent being set that a constitution can be rewritten without the people, against the people, and for the benefit of a few. If that precedent holds, then the idea of nation building and constitutional democracy itself collapses. CAP 3 is not the end of a process. It is the beginning of a new phase of contestation. The line has been drawn clearly, unmistakably, or on one side stands a regime that has chosen power over principle, control over consent, and survival over legitimacy. On the other stands people who must now decide whether the Constitution is a living covenant or a document that can be gutted without consequences. The struggle has entered a new stage, and this time there is no ambiguity about what is at stake. That is retired DIO of the Central Intelligence Organization, Shepard Mpeswe. This is what he shared as soon as the news of the illegal constitutional amendment bill number 3 signing process had been concluded by Emerson Mnangagwa, as he has indicated that does not mark the end. In fact, that has marked a renewed beginning to stop Emerson Mnangagwa as well as Zwikanandas. Thank you very much for watching us. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. You can financially support this channel by pressing the join button and be part of our members who are the heartbeat of this channel. You can equally do so by pressing the thanks button. Send us stars. Okancuba Mhlabane is signing out.